Alright, this is a quick demonstration of the VOR-DME Zulu approach to runway 15 in Martin State, Virginia. This is going to be a little bit different from previous presentations, because this time I'm not going to use the G1000, I'm not going to use the GPS, I'm not going to use an autopilot, I'm just going to use raw data. As you can see, I've tuned the Baltimore VOR 115.10. Let me pause it for now so I can talk about the chart that you can see on the left, hopefully. Yeah, I've tuned Baltimore 115.10 on the nav1. As you can see down here, we have a DME indication of 10.7 DME now on the 334 radial, which I've dialed into the HSI. So we are flying out here towards our initial approach fix named Slope. At Slope, or actually a little before Slope, before we hit the 14.7 DME-Arc, we turn right and join the 14.7 DME right arc until we cross the 021 radial, which is our combi step down fix. So I have to identify crossing the 021 radial, where we can go down to 1800, so 800 feet down from 2600 to 1800. And then we have pretty soon after that the next crossing check, radial 039er. Govies is the name of the intersection, which is our final approach fix. So at this point we run our approach checklist, step down to the next altitude of 1260. Still on the arc. Next we check the 047 radial, so actually less than 10 degrees after, only 8 degrees after. This is going to happen super quickly. We have ZOVAP, where we can step down from 1260 to our minimum altitude of 920. And we stay on the 14.7 DME arc all the way there. Ideally, the arc leads us directly onto the runway, and but I've set up the weather in a way that we are not actually going to see the runway. So what we do instead, we execute the missed approach, which is a right turn onto another radial, and then we join another arc, a smaller arc, the 11 DME arc. And we follow the arc until we identify two crossing radials, the 108 of Baltimore and this other one down here, Alpha Delta Whiskey. I actually don't know the name of the VOR. Radial 055. I've preset that on nav2, so the 055 radial here. This is for identifying our missed approach holding point. And at the missed approach holding point, we are going to do a teardrop entry into the holding and establish 288 inbound towards Baltimore until we cross the fix again, and then we turn outbound, start the timer, execute the holding. So yeah, this is quite a lot that will be going on, especially as we are going to do this without the help of the GPS, without the help of the autopilot, just flying the arc raw data with the twist and turn method. And especially when we join the missed approach, joined another arc for the missed approach, and then join the wait for the crossing radial to enter the holding. This thing gets very confusing if you don't have your mental picture right, and especially if you're not using a moving map or G1000. This is actually quite difficult to keep straight, and so hopefully I won't embarrass myself too much doing this. All right. What's going to be super useful here is our DME with a relative speed indicator. So this number here shows you the speed relative to the station. So ideally, while we are flying the arc, while we are flying perpendicular to the station, this speed should be pretty much 0. And we can use that to judge whether we're drifting into or out of the arc. So the name of the game is in the arc, keep this number as small as possible. Okay, I'm going to turn off the autopilot now and make sure the plane is properly trimmed, so that it's not too hard to fly by hand. 12.7, so we have 2 miles to go to the arc. 1 mile. I'm going to anticipate the intercept turn by 1 mile, because the Baron is quite fast, quite a lot faster than the 172, obviously. So 13.4, 13.7. I'm going to start the turn gently, and now we are going to try and join the 14.7 DME-Arc around Baltimore. .6. So 14.6 right now, drifting out of the arc with 17 knots, 14.7, here we go. Alright, and so of course 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, twist 10, turn 10, and now as you can see the relative speed is down to 0. Now it's picking up again. That means we're drifting into the arc now, going to a level of the plane here, and of course we want this number to be as small as possible. Alright, and of course now we still keep 2,600 feet, and it's going to be twist 10, turn 10 all the time. 14.7, 4 knots, that looks good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and turn another 10 degrees. 14.7 on the distance, and keep the relative speed slow, of course. Relative speed should be very close to 0. Right now about 8 knots. I've lost some 80 feet here. It's of course not good. So the next crossing radial that we care for is going to be 021. So we of course need to watch our needle pointer when we put this on the 021. That'll be our checkpoint to drop down to 1800 feet. So CDI centers another 10 degrees. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I've drifted into the arc a little bit by 14. Here we go, 14.7 again. So another 10 degree turn to the right. Now drifting into the arc with about 6 knots, 5 knots. You can see it's pretty much 0. We're keeping the relative speed towards the station at about 0. Okay, CDI is about to center again. Five knots into the arc now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So right now the CDI is set to 014, which means the next time we twist it, we're not going to twist it by a full 10 degrees. Because we only want to twist it to 021, because that is our crossing radial for the next step down altitude. So when the CDI centers next, only advance it until we put the needle here on the 021. And then when the CDI centers on the 021, we step down to 1800. Alright, it's about to center. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And another one that is 021. Alright, this is the this is the crossing radial we are looking for. I've drifted out of the arc by 0.1 mile. So I'm going to slowly go into the arc again by about 10 knots or so. There you go. So this puts me slowly back into the arc. And now I'm of course watching for the CDI to center, which marks Combi, where we step down to 1800 feet. So DME indication is down to 14.7 again, right where we want it. That's good. CDI centers right about now, so I bring back the power and we're going to drop the plane to 1800. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. .7 on the DME, 4 knots on the relative speed, all looking very good. The next check we want to look out for a 039er, so I'm not going to turn by a full 10 degrees now. The next turn is only going to be about by 8 degrees on the CDI. And here comes our 1800, the next step down altitude. So we want to keep 1800 now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is radial 039er, and this is going to be our final approach fix. So when the CDI centers now on radial 039er, this is our hint to execute the final approach checks, which means gear down, flaps down, gumps check, obviously. Alright, CDI is about to center, and then we're going to turn it only to 047, so only another 8 degrees. So CDI centers, we bring back the power to come into the white arc, gear down, flaps down, and next altitude is 1260, and we're going to turn only 8 degrees now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this is 047 when the CDI centers there. This is ZOVAP. Our altitude there 1260. Right about here. Right, blew right through the altitude. It's quite hard to trim. Yeah, I didn't anticipate the effect on the flaps of the flaps on the trim. And of course I'm getting too slow now. How are we doing on the arc tracking? 14.7. That looks good. Alright, when the CDI centers, that's ZOVAP. And then we can step down to our minimum of 920. So when this centers down to 920 on the 14.7 DME-Arc. So that looks good. CDI centers, power back down to 920 now. And I'm going to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Turn by another 10 degrees. I'm precisely on the arc 14.7. That looks good. Minimum altitude 920, and of course we are not going to see the runway in this weather. 940, 920, here we are. So this is our minimum descent altitude, 920 feet, 14.7 arc. Looks pretty good. Alright, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to set our missed approach point, the missed approach point, is crossing the 060 radial, which we have right here. So right now 920 feet minimum descent altitude, and the missed approach point is at the crossing of the 060 radial. So as soon as the CDI centers here, we have reached our missed approach point on the 14.7 DME-Arc, exactly as it should be. 920 feet, 14.7 arc, radial 060. We are precisely at the missed approach point. So the CDI centers here. We don't see the runway, so we execute the missed approach. I'm going to add power. We climb back up to 2,500. Positive rate, gear up, flaps up. And now the missed approach calls for radial 068 outbound. Whoop, that was too aggressive on the trim. So now I'm going to set the CDI for 068 outbound. Here we go. So I'm going to join this course outbound, and we climb up to 2,500. Gear is up, flaps are up. And of course we can be a little bit less aggressive on the power now. 25, 25. Bring the RPM back a little bit. Here we are, 25, 25. Alright, and as soon as we are established on the 068 radial, we want to look out for 11 DME to join the next arc segment. So 2,500 feet here, blew right through it. Okay, power comes back to about 16 inches or so. There's no need to set a speed record now. So now I'm fighting with the trim a bit to keep the plane at 2,500. So 11 DME coming up, and now we join the arc again. We turn southbound on the 11 DME arc. Here's our 11 DME indication, and the relative speed down to 0 again, exactly as we wanted. And now of course it's again twist 10, turn 10, as you already know. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So 11 DME, and the relative speed down to 0. This is exactly where we want to be. And now we keep twisting until we hit 108. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. .0 on the DME, 3 or 4 knots on the speed indication. All looking pretty good. To go a little bit into the arc again. I've drifted out by 0.1 mile. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And of course the next thing we are looking for is the 108 radial. So the next time I twist it, we're going to hit the 108 radial, and as soon as the CDI center is there, This will center 2, the nav 2 indication should center 2, and this marks our missed approach holding point, where we will execute the teardrop entry into the holding, of course. And this is where it is super easy to get confused. This is where some people, of course, will try to turn in the wrong direction. Alright, CDI is about to center 11.0 DME, exactly where we want to be. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Alright, this is the 108 radial now marked, so the next time the CDI centers will be our missed approach holding point. Alright, as you can see, we are on the 11 DME-Arc. This is about to center, this is about to center, so they will center at about the same time. And when those both are centered, that means we overflew the missed approach holding point. And now we're going to execute a left turn 45 degree into the holding and set 288 on the CDI, which is our holding course. There you go. This is the holding entry course we're looking for, and now I'm turning to a 45 degree into the protected area of the holding for the teardrop entry. So my CDI point, my CDI needle on the HSI is now on the holding inbound course 288, and I've put this in the 45 degree position here on the CDI for our teardrop entry, and I will now fly this for 1 minute. Of course, you can't see my clock, my watch behind the chart, but I can see it. I'm going to fly on this course for a minute, and then we make a left turn and intercept the holding inbound track. Okay, this is our 1 minute mark. We turn right, standard rate turn, 2,500 feet. And what we want to do now is we want to intercept the 288 radial towards our holding fix. So, yeah, we want to intercept and center the CDI, and then we want to look for our nav 2 to center, because that is the crossing radial that defines the missed approach holding point. And if we've done everything right, with the CDI, with the HSI centered, the nav 2 CDI will center at 11.0 DME. Yeah, because that is how the missed approach holding point boast is defined. And when we cross that, we will be established on our standard holding. So right now, of course, I'm waiting for the CDI to start moving. And it looks like, yep, that looks good. CDI is moving inward. So yeah, that looks pretty good. We're going to join the radial right here. Alright, CDI is about to center. Our nav 2 will center in about 0.5 miles. So yeah, what we're looking for is this centered at 11.0 DME. We've done that quite well. It's not precisely centered, maybe half a degree off, if at all. Alright, so here we crossed the missed approach holding point, and now we are established on our standard holding. So going to turn outbound now, 108, and as soon as we level out on the outbound heading, start the 1 minute timer, and that is exactly where the holding should be. Heading 108 coming up. Here we are. One minute outbound. Alright, this was our 1 minute turn. Our 1 minute outbound, so turning inbound now. Alright, and now we are established inbound, 288, CDI is centered, and again we will cross the holding fix when the nav2 centers, and we can cross check that with the DME indication of 11.0. Right, HSI is centered, this CDI is about to center, and then it's another left turn, obviously. Okay, here we go. Center, center, 11.0, right turn, left turn. Okay, and now from here on, of course, we can do this ad infinitum. Going to pause the sim and let's look how we done. So if you compare this to the chart on the left, you can see exactly what we did. Joined the arc here at slope then followed the arc here, did our step down fixes, came down here to our missed approach point where we flew the 068 radial and joined the 11 DME-Arc, and then followed the 11 DME-Arc out here and then flew the teardrop entry into the holding. That was not quite perfect. I choose a 45-degree entry. 30 degrees would have been better, as you can see here, because we never really quite got established inbound, because you can see this is where the holding should be, and the entry with 45 was too steep. 30 would have been better. But again, you can see you can do all of this. You can fly this very complicated approach without using the GPS, without using the G1000, even without using an autopilot. Of course, it takes quite a lot of practice. My demonstration certainly wasn't completely perfect. If you watch this carefully, you will probably see a couple of errors. For example, I forgot to switch off prop sync when I ran the approach check. So gas, undercarriage, mixture, prop, flap, switches, and what I should have done besides pushing the prop and pushing the mixture in, checking that the lights are on, and switch off prop sync, of course. Yeah, but other than that, you can see very exciting approach with 2 arcs, and then joining the holding that is defined by crossing radials out of the arc. And it's very, very easy to get confused here with the teardrop entry and turn in the wrong direction, and for example, turning the wrong direction here, leaving the protected area of the holding. That's an automatic failure in an IFR practical test, of course. So while this entry wasn't perfect, 30 degrees would have been better. We stayed on the protected side of the holding, and this is ideally what we look for if this was a practical test scenario. All right, let me know what you think about this very interesting approach, or try to fly it yourself in the 172 maybe, which is a little bit easier to do because it's slower than the Baron. I did it in the Baron to keep the video time down a bit, but if you can make as good a job in a 172, and you can do all of that without the GPS and without the autopilot, well, consider yourself a good instrument pilot, and maybe film it and make a better demonstration than I did and show it on YouTube. Thank you.